In this lessons episode, discover that successful investing is less about capital size and more about disciplined decision-making. Learn why removing emotions from investment decisions is essential. Understand how surrounding yourself with expert mentors sharpens your strategy, and uncover how diversification opens doors to new opportunities, even in volatile markets. And so I asked you if you consider yourself a professional investor, but at the very minimum, you are a professional decision maker. And that's what I think, but everybody is. Yes. I think that well, actually it's all relative. I was going to say, because there's more capital, there's more stakes, but it doesn't really matter, because at any level, it's all relative, right? Like, you could be putting in like $5,000 into a company, and if you lose it all, that's still $5,000 gone. And if you're only making $70,000 a year or whatever, that's significant to you. So it doesn't really make a difference.
So being a good investor equates to being a good decision maker, and also being able to remove your emotions from the investment. It's very hard to do. I am not particularly good at it, but I'm seasoned and I'm hardened over
So you sold Easy Texting.
Yes.
You started investing.
I started investing. I made a lot of mistakes.
Okay, so, but even like the thought process, because again, I do see you being more active than a lot of the people that I know. A lot of people I know who sold a company, they only invest in the thing that they know.
Yes,
and
I'm all across the board.
And or real estate. That's like the only, like, you could be like a SaaS founder and you just do like early stage prop tech, SaaS, and then plus real estate or yeah. But you do everything.
I do, because
and you have to talk about the stuff that you put money into.
Oh yeah. So I'll tell you, my strategy is very different now than it was before.
When you started?
Yeah. But I think that being able to control, if you look at the best investors like a Buffett or those guys, right? They're all slightly on the spectrum, and so they don't experience emotion the same way that, I don't know, quote unquote normal people do, right? Or you and I do, or so they could see like a huge loss on their account and not flinch, because they're so certain about what they just did, and they're just like, I'm willing to be wrong for a long time until I'm right.
Yeah, but for most people, you have a heart attack.
Yeah, you go in and you see your account down 30%, 40%, 50%, you're gonna have a heart attack, and you're gonna make a bad decision. Okay, and so that's an acquired skill, and sometimes it's, even when you acquire the skill, like even during COVID, like I was on the verge of making some really bad decisions that I'm thankful that I didn't make, but I was this close, like I'm not immune to it, right? To making emotional decisions. And so, that's a practice. It's just like working out, right? Like the more you practice it, or, yoga or whatever it is, the more you practice it, the better you get at it. And, you can start small. I found, a few people who I respected. I talk to them all the time. It's very hard to find those people in whatever you're looking for. Like for me, it was for investments. For other people, it could be in health. I know you and Gary are tight.
Yeah.
Now, right? And I know
he has his own. He's built a massive social media business with Volatility. So like, he's one of the guys that I look to for that. But there's not many people that are killing it. Like the 0.001% is for a reason, right?
Yeah. So it's worth your time and effort to try and find those people that you want to surround yourself in. That's probably the 90% of the game. And the amount that I learned from those people, and now I'm adding value to them because I learned their techniques, I learned from them, and now I'm like contributing, right? And so I think that's an essential. You really want to find those people that are experts in what you're trying to do, and put yourself around them, and put yourself into scenarios that give you high probability of meeting those people in situations. So now my my investment thesis is very different than before.
What was it when I don't even think you told me.
I think I was trying to do a little bit of what you said. I know I did real estate and I did SaaS and things I knew initially. But then, you know, when I put myself around other investors that were really smart, they were opening up whole new worlds for me and showing me biotech and showing me, deep tech and showing me CPG, like we did at Athletic Greens, for example, one of the investments that I did with one of my friends that's an amazing investor as well. And then looking at late stage businesses, you know, like we did Pacific Park at the Santa Monica Pier, which we bought that business, which is it's the #1 tourist destination in Los Angeles.
I know. So you literally bought the Santa Monica Pier.
We didn't buy the pier itself. You can't own the pier, right?
It sounds cool.
It sounds cool. We bought the business of the pier, so it's a little bit different. But there's a real estate component to it. But I think right now my tech.
By the way, are those some of your biggest ones? So Athletic Greens.
So I think Athletic Greens, the Pure is one of the biggest deals I've ever been involved with. I did a company called Figure AI recently, which is a humanoid robot that Brett Adcox founded. I don't think I knew you when I first invested. We've invested 2 years ago. It was a unique time because the markets were doing really poorly at that time. It was 2022, I think. And, tech was down a lot. Inflation was raging. And Brett comes out and he's like, I want to build a humanoid robot. And all he had was a few guys that he had hired from Boston Dynamics, a sample of a hand of a robot, and a bunch of, I don't know, like computerized prototypes.
But he had a track record, though.
He had a track record, and he was putting in 20 million of his own money. So that's the thing. When you make decisions, you have to also kind of take into, because if you just look at it at the face of it, most 99.9% of people would never even consider it, because it's like, he's going to build a human robot that whatever, right? Like,
but when you put your money where your mouth is, as a founder,
and going into details matter, right? So like those things matter. You know, he had a track record. He's had 2 exits. He took Archer Aviation public. So he had a lot of hardware experience and scaling hardware. He was putting his money where his mouth was. He had gone pretty far, even with very little money, of actually making a functional hand, which is the hardest part of a robot mostly. And so when I first did that investment, most people thought I was batshit crazy because, first of all, the markets were in turmoil at that time. So it's very hard under fear to make investments.
But that's where the removing your emotion piece.
Absolutely. Like whether it's in the public markets or the private markets it's irrelevant, right? People get disgusted and they don't want to look, right? They don't want to look because they see their account down, right? And they're like, oh yeah, now I'm going to make an investment and like take even more money out of there.
But the thing is, those two things are completely separate from each other.
Yet it is, logically speaking,
but it's
very hard to separate it out. And so anyway, as luck would have it, which I think 90% of all this is luck, obviously, Brett was successful. He made a prototype that actually works. It's actually deployed on Amazon and BMW right now. It's probably him and Optimus from Tesla are probably the incumbents in the field, where they have a real viable product that can actually replace human labor. And if you think about it, human labor, physical labor, is a $3 trillion TAM. Like everything, like it's all the work that no one really wants to do, right? Like this is, no one wants to go and pick and pack in a warehouse and go down aisles and pull things from boxes and, take a piece of sheet metal and keep putting it into a press 1,000 times a day, which is where he's starting, which I think is the right thing. And also in a warehouse, a robot's in a controlled environment, so the safety issues are kind of much more manageable.
They're mitigated a little.
Yeah, they're much more manageable. It's also talking to a computer that's giving it directions, like a warehouse management system, versus, me, a robot being in my house and I'm saying, wash the dishes, right? It's a little bit different.
It's almost like, robots exist in car manufacturing already.
They do,
but this is
certain parts of
it. So this is just like almost finishing or more parts of the factory is now going to
So
be.
Tesla, I think, their idea is that the entire process will be done by a robot. And as a practical matter, all the other robots that work on anything are, the environment is retrofitted for the robot so that the robot can work correctly in that environment. But the world is meant to interface with humans. It's meant to interface with hands, feet, stabilize, like a human, like even an iPhone, if you go and actually look at how it's made, a lot of it's done by hand. You can't even imagine, right? It's done on a huge scale in China, but a lot of the pieces are being done by hand. And so if you can really truly replace that, the opportunity is huge. It's almost like as big as cars were when cars were invented, right? The opportunity is huge in the entire physical labor.
So it's funny whenever an entrepreneur is like TAM, like total addressable market, and they say some ridiculous, outlandish number, and you're like, well, if I just captured like 1% of TAM or whatever, then company will be successful. But this is
really truly a giant TAM. I mean, like the payroll first of all, Amazon and all these places, they can't even get enough workers. There's not enough workers that want to do this, so they have to constantly raise the price of what they're willing to pay. I mean, the port workers, you just saw what happened. It was just happened.
The strike, the huge strike.
It got resolved, but they're getting paid like $65 an hour now.
That's significant. That's huge.
Yeah. So like, why wouldn't you replace that person with a robot if you could? It makes no sense. Why do you need a person to like move cargo from one side of the port to the other? And like, there's a lot of issues with that because there's safety issues. Like if a piece of cargo falls on a robot, no one cares.
But if that injures a person, that's millions of dollars, and
the productivity gains, the things that come with it. And so anyway, just recently they raised $650 million from like Microsoft and OpenAI, and Jeff Bezos put $100 million in. So, I look smart.
And then now,
and then let's see what happens in 2 years. Right? Like it could be a zero, right?
Thanks for tuning in. If you found this valuable, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And if you want to dive deeper into this conversation, check out the links in the description to watch the full episode. See you in the next one.